know that here, whether she tries it or not. Good girl! Oh, isn't that great? The first time an American, only Midori Ito, has completed a triple axel in competition. Oh, how nice! How terrific! Oh, no!
Well, she's written a little history, and she still has 3 minutes left in this routine. Tonya Harding.
She looks thrilled.
Everybody says, where's the triple axel? Where's the triple axel? I'm just like, well, it'll be there. Don't worry.
19 years have passed since Tonya Harding first strapped on a set of ice skates.
We were at Lloyd Center with my parents, and I looked over and I saw the people skating down there. I said, I want to do that. They said, no, no, no. Finally, they gave in because I was crying, and they took me down there, and I did it.
Once Tonya learned the basics, her mother set out to find the best coach available.
Her mother didn't want to take no for an answer.
Diane Rollinson has been involved in competitive figure skating for 40 years.
And so she sent Tonya out, and Tonya skated circles around myself and my competitive skaters and was constantly underfoot and in the way.
Diane says, well, I don't usually take young skaters, and I went down and I skated circles around her and drove her nuts.
I figured the only way that I could control our training situation was to coach her.
If I just said, okay, okay, I'll take her, you know, take her on a trial basis.
And she was wonderful. So,
I did double axel.
Oh, good. Let's see another one. As a child, we couldn't get Tonya off the ice. She would wear her skates to the supermarket. She would do her jumps down the aisle. She would break down a pair of boots in a month because she would never take her skates off. The only time she would get off the ice was when the Zamboni, the ice cleaning machine, would come out to clean the ice.
Just right.
Tonya took her first lesson on November 12th, her birthday. The following August, at the age of 4, she entered and won her first figure skating competition.
Tonya Harding out of Portland, Oregon, where she's a junior high school student, and she begins this final competition in 5th place.
That's right, Jim, and she's so exciting. She was first in the short program yesterday. Her free skating is really her strong point. Big double axel, nice height, moved well across the ice.
The next years were heady ones. Chosen to light the torch at the Oregon State Games in 1987, she seemed bound for Olympic glory. In 1988, she made alternate on the Olympic figure skating team.
And Karen Kadavi went, and she was sick when she went. And she hoped she would get better. And she did the figures, and then she had to withdraw. And if she hadn't gone sick, Tonya would have gone. Tonya has been the alternate for Worlds for 5 years.
What? I don't like it.
Well, what do you want to do there?
I want to cut the music down. We shouldn't have to do a second double axel in the program there.
Tonya, we're not making any changes before nationals.
Is it difficult to work with Tonya Harding for a coach?
Sure. I'm sure it is.
Coaching someone as strong-willed as Tonya Harding poses a challenge even for a veteran like Rollinson.
Tonya does not like to train her program.
You know, do the triple sow.
But another triple sow without a double toe. I would like to have another triple flip or another triple Lutz in the program.
I don't get it. Don't do this to me today. I think we should just do the program like we've said it. Nice, Tonya.
My thought behind this was if we consolidate them, it won't be so hard for you with your asthma.
Why does it come up?
What would be after that?
But then where's the triple axel? Too far into the program. I'm going to be way too tired to do it.
Former Romanian gymnast Erica Bacchus works with Tonya on choreography. Bacchus defected to the United States, bringing only 4 suitcases and leaving behind a house, a car, and a job. Tonya and Erica share difficult beginnings.
For about a year and a half, Tonya and her mother and father lived in the back of their truck. It wasn't a camper, it was just a little truck, and they lived on some vacant land out in Estacada. Her mother tells a story about collecting cans and bottles and turning them into the supermarket for money to survive on, and her parents were not employed a lot of the time, but her parents both love her very much, and they're both very supportive of her skating.
Rollinson lives in one of Portland's most affluent neighborhoods. She helped her new pupil through those years of $500 competition skates and expensive lessons.
I worked full-time for 7 years just to pay for Tonya's skating.
Is that right?
And yes, 23 other skaters to pay for Tonya's skating.
Rollinson's coaching and Tonya's talents led her to a second-place finish at the World Championships in 1991, a first at Skate America, and a first place at the U.S. Nationals, which included the now famous triple. The first American woman, and today the only skater still active in competition to do a triple axel during competition.
It's hard to understand what a Tonya Harding or any other professional athlete, amateur athlete who does well, what they go through. I mean, you have to understand that, you know, it's a very difficult life for them.
Former KATU sports director Steve Arena covered Tonya Harding for years.
I mean, Tonya Harding, when she was young, worked out on her own, by herself, hours and hours and hours every day in the skating rink, and suddenly she hits a triple, and she's famous around the world, and she comes home from a trip wherever, and there are 6 photographers with cameras and lights there to greet her, and suddenly she's in the public eye, and that's difficult to handle.
I was appalled when I saw Tonya getting on the plane going to Olympics, and her husband had his coat over her head. I couldn't believe that they were doing that, and it was on TV. And then I realized that the National Enquirer was there, and her best friend had sold her story to the National Enquirer, and that's what that was all about.
The Enquirer article detailed Tonya's alleged marital problems.
Actually, it was a nice story. But it was terrifying for her. She doesn't think of herself as a celebrity. She thinks of herself as just a real little Oregonian.
And we had dealt, you know, Tonya coming back from competition at the airport and not wanting to talk to television cameras and really, you know, obviously feeling uncomfortable with being in the spotlight and being in the public eye.
If I have something on my mind, I'll say it. I don't ever hold back anything. And sometimes I guess that gets me into trouble, but sometimes that gets me into trouble, but most of the time it doesn't. I think that people like a person who's really upfront and is open and honest.
Historically, figure skaters have always been put on a pedestal, and it's been very much like a Miss America pageant. You were expected to act and perform in a very feminine way. And Tonya's definitely her own person, and she's quite outspoken.
Her coach says Tonya developed the physique that lets her do triple axels by hunting and fishing and chopping wood.
I've never seen anyone beat her in arm wrestling.
And then there was the infamous baseball bat incident.
It was a big misunderstanding.
Tonya says the bat was plastic, and the incident was overblown.
Everybody has bad days, and I guess both her and I had bad days, and that's just the way it was. It was a big misunderstanding, and I told her I was sorry, and we went on our separate ways.
Other problems have been more difficult for Tonya to overcome.
Triple loop jump, and she fell out of that one. You know, she's just not up to her usual self tonight. I wouldn't be surprised that cold she told you about, Peggy, was actually a problem.
Because Tonya's problem involves not a cold and not the flu, but asthma.
Her asthma is a problem, and we need to get that under control.
It can affect me in different ways. I could be shortness of breath, or I could cough. I have coughing fits sometimes. I've had a few bad ones where I've had to be hospitalized, where they'd go in and they'd have to basically revive me because I'm not breathing enough to actually get enough oxygen into my body. to know what's going on.
Tonya missed the opening ceremonies at the Winter Olympics and waited until 3 days before her performance before she finally got on the plane for the long ride to Albertville.
Most people feel that Tonya was not being a good sport and supporting the U.S.
And that wasn't the case?
That wasn't the case.
By that time, Harding had dropped Diane Rollinson, her coach of 19 years, for Dodie Teachman. But Rollinson remained Tonya's friend, and she knew the real reason that Tonya waited so long to leave.
Tonya was having trouble with her jumps, and the the International Committee was trying to decide whether they were going to send her until the last week before, and that's one of the reasons she went so late.
In other words, until 1 week before the Olympic Games, Tonya faced the possibility that she would be told that her performance was still not good enough and that she would not go, and another skater would be sent in her place.
And it put a lot of pressure on Tonya.
In effect, what did they pick up the phone and call?
No, they flew in. They flew in to watch her on 3 occasions.
So Tonya stayed home where she could get in hours of training every day.
People said I didn't train. Well, those people weren't here. They didn't see what I was doing. I was doing 2 sessions in the morning, coming back on Monday and Friday nights and skating, and also on Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11:30 to 12:30 at night training for an hour. Just me on the ice.
She came up 4th.
I just wanted to go home. And I know, a little bit of disappointment because I had trained really hard going into Olympics.
At the airport, Tonya walked off the plane greeted not by friends and family like her return from nationals, but news photographers she did not expect.
I don't know how you guys knew I was coming in. I didn't tell anybody. I can't believe this.
Generally, people either love Tonya or they're not particularly big fans of hers.
Her coach paints Tonya as nearly patriotic in her devotion to Oregon and the United States.
And she's very proud of being from Oregon, and she's totally American. This year when the International Committee asked her which competition she wanted to do, everyone else wants to go to France or Germany, and Tonya wanted to do Skate America. She is so American. She buys American. She just bought a brand new Jeep.
Nothing is as beautiful as Oregon.
1992 and 93 have been difficult years. In 1991, Tonya placed 1st and 2nd in the U.S. and World Championships. But in 1992 and 93, she finished 4th and 6th in the same events. But her determination remains, spurred on, she says, by the Northwesterners who come out to watch.
I had a lot of people come up to me and say, hey, we came down here just to see you. We drove, all the way from Eugene, or we drove all the way from here and here just to see you skate. And that means a lot. It really does.
No doubts remain in Tonya Harding's mind that she will go to the 1994 Winter Games in Norway.
Will the triple axel be there?
Yes.
How about the quad loop?
Nope.
Not in competition?
Nope. I proved myself. I did it on Texaco commercial. It was on film. I don't have to prove myself anymore. I proved it to myself that I could do it. I proved it to people here at the rink that I could do it. And, hey, I did it, so, it doesn't matter if other people don't believe me or not.